The Vietnam War, a conflict that raged from 1955 to 1975, left an indelible mark on global politics. It was a conflict of immense scale and brutality, claiming millions of lives and leaving a legacy of division and destruction. This essay will explore the profound ways in which the Vietnam War shaped international relations, influenced domestic policies, and continues to resonate in the 21st century. From the jungles of Southeast Asia to the streets of America, the Vietnam War had a global impact. It was a conflict deeply intertwined with the Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. The war's consequences transcended geographical boundaries, influencing everything from military strategy to the global balance of power. The Vietnam War forced the world to confront difficult questions about ideology, interventionism, and the limits of American power. It exposed the complexities of proxy wars, where superpowers clashed indirectly on foreign battlefields. The war's legacy continues to shape our understanding of conflict, intervention, and the enduring pursuit of peace in a complex world. This exploration of the Vietnam War's impact on global politics will delve into the Cold War context, the domino theory, and the roles of key international actors. We will examine the war's effects on global power dynamics, the rise of the anti-war movement, and the limitations placed on presidential power. Finally, we will analyze the enduring legacy of the Vietnam War, both in Southeast Asia and on the world stage. The Vietnam War cannot be understood in isolation from the broader context of the Cold War. This global ideological struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union formed the backdrop against which the conflict unfolded. The two superpowers, each armed with nuclear arsenals, engaged in a high-stakes competition for influence and dominance. The Vietnam War became a proxy conflict, a battleground where the US and the USSR could indirectly confront each other without risking direct military confrontation. The US, driven by the domino theory and the goal of containing communism, supported South Vietnam against the Communist North, which received backing from the Soviet Union and China. This proxy war dynamic had profound implications for the conflict in Vietnam. It fueled the escalation of the war, as both superpowers poured resources and military aid into their respective allies. The Cold War context also heightened the stakes of the conflict, turning Vietnam into a testing ground for American military might and resolve. The Vietnam War became a focal point for Cold War anxieties, shaping perceptions of communist expansion and the US role as a global policeman. It highlighted the dangers of ideological conflicts and the devastating human cost of proxy wars, leaving a lasting impact on international relations. Central to U.S. involvement in Vietnam was the domino theory, a Cold War-era geopolitical concept that shaped American foreign policy in Southeast Asia. The theory posited that if one country in a region fell to communism, then surrounding nations would fall like dominoes, one after another. This theory, embraced by U.S. policymakers, fueled fears of communist expansion in Southeast Asia. Vietnam, strategically located in the region, became a critical battleground in the fight against the perceived communist threat. The U.S., determined to prevent the spread of communism, committed itself to supporting South Vietnam's fight against the Communist North. The domino theory, however, proved to be a flawed and ultimately disastrous guiding principle. It oversimplified the complex realities of Southeast Asian politics, ignoring local dynamics and nationalist sentiments. The theory also led to a dangerous escalation of U.S. involvement in Vietnam, as the U.S. poured resources into a conflict it did not fully understand. The domino theory's legacy is one of cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of simplistic geopolitical thinking and the unintended consequences of interventionism. It highlights the importance of understanding local contexts and the limits of using military force to achieve ideological goals. The Vietnam War was not simply a bilateral conflict between North and South Vietnam. It drew in numerous international actors, each with its own motivations and agendas, transforming the conflict into a complex web of alliances and rivalries. The Soviet Union, as North Vietnam's primary benefactor, played a crucial role in supporting the communist war effort. Soviet military aid, including weapons, training, and logistical support, proved essential to North Vietnam's ability to sustain its fight against the US-backed South. China, another communist power, also provided significant support to North Vietnam. China's involvement stemmed from both ideological solidarity with North Vietnam and strategic considerations, as China sought to counter U.S. influence in Southeast Asia. On the other side of the conflict, the U.S. rallied allies including South Korea, Australia and Thailand to support South Vietnam. However, U.S. efforts to build a broad international coalition proved challenging, as many nations remained wary of becoming entangled in a costly and protracted conflict. Section 5. Shifting Sands, Global Power Dynamics. The Vietnam War had a profound and lasting impact on global power dynamics, accelerating shifts that were already underway and reshaping the international order. The war marked a turning point in the Cold War, weakening the United States' position of global dominance and emboldening its rivals. The U.S.'s failure to achieve a decisive victory in Vietnam, despite its military superiority, tarnished its image as a superpower and undermined its credibility on the world stage. The war exposed the limitations of American power and the challenges of waging protracted counterinsurgency campaigns. The Soviet Union, in contrast, emerged from the conflict with enhanced prestige. Its support for North Vietnam's victory bolstered its image as a champion of anti-imperialist struggles and strengthened its position as a global power. The Vietnam War also contributed to the rise of polycentrism, a more multipolar world order where power was distributed among multiple centers rather than concentrated in the hands of two superpowers. The conflict highlighted the growing importance of regional actors and the limits of bipolarity as a framework for understanding international relations. Furthermore, the war's impact extended beyond the realm of great power politics. It fueled anti-colonial movements, emboldened socialist and communist parties, and inspired a generation of activists and revolutionaries around the world. The Vietnam War sparked one of the most significant anti-war movements in history. Across the United States and around the globe, millions of people took to the streets to protest the conflict. These protests were driven by a diverse coalition of students, civil rights activists, religious leaders, and ordinary citizens who were united in their opposition to the war. The anti-war movement had a profound impact on American society and politics. It challenged the government's policies, questioned the morality of the war, and demanded an end to the violence. The movement also played a crucial role in shaping public opinion and influencing policy decisions. As the protests grew in size and intensity, they put pressure on political leaders to seek a resolution to the conflict and ultimately contributed to the decision to withdraw American troops from Vietnam. In response to the Vietnam War and the widespread opposition it generated, the United States Congress passed the War Powers Act in 1973. This landmark legislation was designed to check the president's power to commit the nation to armed conflict without the consent of Congress. The War Powers Act requires the president to consult with Congress before sending American forces into hostilities, and mandates the withdrawal of troops after 60 days, unless Congress authorizes a longer deployment. The act was a significant step in reasserting congressional authority over matters of war and peace, and aimed to prevent future conflicts like Vietnam from escalating without proper oversight and accountability. The legacy of the Vietnam War is complex and multifaceted. It left an indelible mark on the United States and the world, shaping the course of history in profound ways. The war exposed the limits of American power and underscored the challenges of military intervention in foreign conflicts. It also highlighted the importance of understanding the cultural, political, and historical context of the nations involved. The Vietnam War taught us valuable lessons about the costs of war, the importance of diplomacy, and the need for a more nuanced approach to international relations. As we reflect on this tumultuous period in history, it is essential to remember the sacrifices made by those who served and to strive for a future where conflicts are resolved through dialogue and cooperation.